Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another episode of the Youth Cafe podcast, and I'm your host, Shali Jemeli. So since time immemorial, we've been victims of governments of tokenism, prebendalism, and clientelism. And nowadays, Homo sapiens have chosen to sugarcoat corruption, especially when it comes to employment. You'll hear others call it connection, others call it grace. Most people say, ni God manze, and people of my gender have even gone a step further to misuse the phrase small girl, big God. Anyway, joining me today are guests from Transparency International Kenya, and as their name suggests, there's no room for dudes or shories for opaqueness here. Stay tuned as we peel back the layers of corruption. Karibuni sana. Please tell us who you are, where you're from, and any other information that you'd like us to know about you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to be here. My name is Samuel Komu, a lawyer by profession, working for Transparency International, Kenyan chapter. In normal day work experience, I support and lead project implementation around different intervention at Transparency International. It's good to be here to pick up this conversation on youth, corruption, and how it's affecting our country. Thank you.
Thank you once again, Shali. And my name is Joshua Muteti. I'm from Transparency International Kenya. And as my name suggests, Muteti means an advocate. And it means that I speak up for just communities, just societies, just financial systems, and no room for corruption, as Shali says. So on a day-to-day basis, the work that I engage in is to look at curbing misuse of public funds and looking at how can we enhance our domestic resource mobilization by reducing corruption, reducing money laundering, and making sure that we are having a financial system that is more responsive to the needs of the citizens. That if the government is taxing citizens, it is a tax system that is fair and just. If the government is sharing out development projects, the development projects that are proportionate towards the inequality and trying to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor. So that is what I do on a day-to-day basis, and looking forward to have a very, very productive and very, very fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Me too. So before we get into the discussion, if you were to give an anti-corruption award to anyone you know, who would it be and why? Even if it's yourself, it's okay.
Why? Anyone I know
anyone
to give,
you know.
I think I would give it to, not specifically to one person, but to the champions who have come out to defend the rule of law, to defend human rights in this country, and to defend the implementation of the Constitution as it should be, especially around this time that we've seen people come out. We have been, as an institution, trying to advocate for respect of rule of law. We have been doing different interventions, but I think for us it's good seeing that we are making progress as a country. We are seeing people coming out. We are seeing a more informed citizenry. We are seeing people coming out to ask questions, to take actions, and we are glad that people are making the sacrifice to protect this country. So I would give it to anyone who is passionate and anyone who is coming out to make a step towards that right direction.
Yeah. Receive your flowers.
Thank you so much. I think myself, at the moment, the Gen Zs of this country, I would really map out the ones who have led the revolution against the punitive regime. And this one is because of how it has been tribeless, it has been leaderless, it has been, they're not asking you're coming from which sector of the country, and they're not having the Mutuwetu syndrome. And as you can see, we can say that now the conversation, at least it is moving towards citizens scrutinizing how is our money being spent, and citizens are wanting to know, like, as much as it's government right to pay taxes as by the constitution, now how are these taxes of ours being utilized by this particular government? And this one, when the Gen Zs were coming out, the major issue that they were looking at was, how is our resources? You want to tax us more, fine, but how are you using our money? We are not giving you powers to tax us more if you're not showing us accountability of our resources. And I think the Gen Zs of the generation, within the 3 months that we've gone to the streets, we've really achieved much. And the thing is that we are in for a long haul, but at least we have a pedestal where we can stand, and at least we have a baseline where we can at least say that at least it is achievable. Nothing is impossible if you stand for the right side. So I think the youth of this country,
Take your flowers.
Absolutely.
Actually,
what you're
youth,
doing.
you're right. Ukisema
Yes.
Gen Z, millennials, walitokea and you're not giving them their
Oh, the
flowers.
millennials. Oh my goodness.
Let's just say the youth
Yeah.
and everyone who came out to support the cause.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So now, TI is very well known for the CPI. Well, for those who don't know, TI is Transparency International. CPI is Corruption Perceptions Index. So now, the CPI usually provides important snapshot of corruption worldwide, right? Yeah. So what trends have you so far seen in African countries? Like, which ones are improving, which ones are regressing?
Okay, just to introduce, just in brief, Transparency as an institutional organization. We are not for-profit organization working to promote good governance and transparent operation by pushing for accountability and integrity in the different sectors around the country. We've been in existence for quite a number of good years, and we are celebrating 5 years of existence. So that's good. We've been doing this. So for us, we are not a government institution. We are not for-profit organization, and that sets us to the other side of the coin, because we try in a way to operate, quote unquote, to oversight what the government is doing. As far as use of public resources is concerned. And we work in different sectors. Programmatically, we have 3 programs. We are working within the natural resource and climate governance. So we have projects touching on natural resources, climate, and also the land sector. We also do projects around public finance management. This country, I think the biggest conversation revolves around public resources. So we have a project that deals basically with that. We have a program that deals with that. Industry, we have engagement and interaction with citizens, and our citizen demand program, where we are trying to empower citizens to just come out as they are continue doing, as the youth are doing now, to just come out and push for accountability. So that is just Transparency International. But going to our interventions, research is one of our key interventions, and for the big reason that we want to do what we call evidence-based advocacy. We want to speak from a point of information, and that's why one of our key signature approach and interventions revolves around research. So corruption perception indices is one of our many research materials that we do. And basically it's the perception of people across different countries, and specifically around 180 countries worldwide. We speak to citizens from different countries and get their perceptions around transparency, accountability, and levels of corruption within their countries. Where are we as Kenya? We're not doing well at all. Totally. Nikumoto, yeah, true. Because for us as a country, we look at perception from 0 to 100, with 100 being the best or less corrupt, 0 being the most corrupt. And I think for us, our position has been around 28 to 30.
Well.
So we are not doing well. But looking at the trends, I think here in Africa, we have countries like South Africa, we have Namibia, we have quite a good number of countries that are trying. But I put that in terms of when you talk about the trends, mostly you realize that countries where we have gaps in democracy, we have violation of human rights, we have disrespect or discredit as far as respect for rule of law is concerned. They are not doing well. Where you find threats, where you find countries where we are having civil war, where you find countries that are not respecting the constitution, and where you find democracy is not at play, then you find that is a good recipe for enhancing corrupt practices. Because if you don't respect the law, then basically there are more opportunities to misuse and mismanage public resources, and those are some of the trends that you see as far as corruption perception indices is concerned.
Just to add a couple of thoughts there, and to mention that corruption perception index is a globally recognized index, and this is a very, very important data that informs when you're speaking about foreign direct investment towards a particular country, when you're speaking about the confidence of other states that may want to partner with in development. One of the things that inform in terms of how much they're going to invest in Kenya is the corruption perception index. And it is an index that measures the perception of the public of how corrupt the government is. Like a businessman, when they come to Kenya, like how much do they have to part with in terms of corruption on top of the taxation that is required to set up a particular company. And this particular sort of cost is really, really damaging. We have a very promising market. We have a very, very ripe market for most of the global products that are there. But the most hindering factor is that on top of the cost of compliance, on top you have to add another cost of corruption, so that you can be able to at least get your factory running in Kenya or a production unit running in Kenya. And this one is looking at the global foreign investor coming in, and also looking at the local investors who want to invest in Kenya. We have, it is very, very difficult to set up a particular company in Kenya and to have it running and to have it give you returns because of the cost of corruption that has to come with the compliance. Right, the compliance agencies, they have on top of the fees that are supposed to be paid, there is another amount. Kuna zingine za macho that comes, so that at least it's called the to grease your or to easen up your ease of doing business in Kenya. And this has really damaged confidence in Kenyan market, and that's why you see people, they'd rather go to other jurisdictions that at least public sector corruption is limited, and the factors of the market are at least controlling the demand and supply. In Kenya, the people who have big businesses in Kenya, if you check, are the politicians. And it's because being a politician, you're well connected, at least you can pull a string here and there. And when you're speaking to a certain youth who is not a politician, who has zero connection, and they want to set up something, it is really, really difficult for them to come up with a unit if they don't part with corruption cost. So that is so it's the other major factor that we are facing in this is that constantly the government of Kenya has continuously ignored the repercussions of CPI and what the significance of corruption perception index. And you can see this in terms of suppressing of the media coverage of it. Like this year, when this perception index was put forward, we didn't have major media organization coming up and telling the country where we are at. If you ask the citizen out there, where we are at a CPI, they don't even understand what the CPI is, what is the Corruption Perception Index. Recently also, I don't know whether you know, there was a bribery index, not a bribery index, there is a corruption report that was produced by the EACC on which sectors are more corrupt, which sectors are less corrupt. And I don't know that got the adequate coverage that it needs, because the citizens need to understand the kind of mess that we are in. If you compare globally, not globally, but if you compare locally, we part with around 608 billion Kenya shillings in terms of corruption from our budget. So we have a budget of around 3.4 trillion. And then at the same time, we have to, from that 3.4 trillion, we have to part with around 600 billion in terms of corruption, which is what we call the budgeted corruption. And this is money that if you take this as 600 billion, is the whole cost of education. All right, we are having an underfunded education, an underfunded healthcare, an underfunded public works, and all this other service delivery system because of the corruption and what it does to Kenya. And this government, the one that we're talking about, they have continuously told us that they're not in power to fight corruption. They tell us that is not their priority. Like, if you have a government that is whose priority is not to fight corruption, really speaks volume on how much they're looking at, and how much they're looking at.
You want them to attack themselves.
Man, you see, the thing is, that you want them to attack themselves. That one is a funny one. That is a funny one. But the thing is, you see, if you have a government that is not committed to fight corruption, it shows that we have a government that is not committed to the social contract. The social contract means that the citizens pay taxes and the government use that taxes to provide for basic services. Article 43 of the Constitution, healthcare, education, and all that. But at the same time, the government is non-committal at all towards reducing wastage in public services. They are not committed towards reducing corruption. In fact, they want to look at more loopholes, want to get more projects so that they can have their loopholes of getting their corrupt deals. But anyway, I think that's just to add to what my colleague here said about Corruption Perception Index. But it does a lot of damage to our market. And as you're looking at it, what is the cost of it to the generation that is coming up? We are having a small cabal of politicians, about that I don't think they get up to 200 in number. But these are people who are focused to build dynasties on taxpayers' money. They're focused on building dynasties on process of corruption. All right, rather than using that platform at least to strengthen our service delivery systems. So it's a really, really major challenge, and it's a problem that if we don't deal with right now, it's going to carry over to the so many generations that are coming up.
True. Okay, so you've mentioned something on the various sectors and the levels of corruption. So from the research you've done, which sectors tend to have the highest levels of corruption?
I think for us, maybe I can take it back to not this one, the previous one, and the CPIs that we have done, quite a number of years.
So you do the CPIs annually?
Yes. So the last one we did before the 2023 one is the recent one that we did. Before that, the sector that was leading, or the sector that has been leading for quite a long period of time, is the police sector. Police sector has been leading in this, but in the recent past, we have also seen the judiciary coming up very well, because citizens feel that they are not able to access justice, and one of the key reasons is because of corruption, bribery, kickbacks to have your cases, the long time, the delays in having justice. If you need something, if you need your case to be, probably it takes long than it should be, and there are those who feel if you bribe, then you get an opportunity to have your case probably move fast, move towards your direction, or that kind of approach. So the judiciary has also been coming up very well. But we also, I think we also have another sector that has also had quite some challenge. The land sector, the different
Health haiko kwa list.
It's also part of it. No, it's also part of it. I think actually health comes at number 3. But if you look at that and compare that to the trends that I've spoken about, basically we are looking at service delivery sector. They are very prone to corruption. For one reason is you get to interact with these sectors every day. Health sector, education sector, everyone is in need of these services. At some point in your day-to-day operations, you or your family member is going to school. You or your family member is seeking medical attention. So these are sectors that are more prone to corruption, and that is why the service delivery sectors of health and education, they are also part of that. But those are some of the main sectors that we've seen leading as far as perception of citizens around corruption is concerned. And there's also the infrastructure. I think we are looking at the sector where we have infrastructure, especially the large kind of infrastructure. We have SGR. Yes, we have. So that is also another area that we are seeing a lot of corruption coming up. People feel these in large infrastructure projects are opportunities for public service players to enrich themselves.
That's true.
Yeah, so there is also a lot of bribery going on, a lot of kickbacks happening. Yeah, and basically those are some of the leading sectors as far as the corruption is concerned.
So I think we also have to look at the dynamics of corruption, I think, within these sectors that we're looking at. Because corruption is just like an economy. It's a whole system. It's a whole economy of corruption. There is a demand and there is a supply side of corruption. Now, we have seen corruption on the public sector where there is deliberate planning of how people will come up with projects, map out particular projects in a particular financial year, and then they will, through this project, they're going to have some kickbacks in form of debts that they're going to enter into, in form of, contractors are going to give these particular engagements and all that. Now, this is a particular, on the side of citizens as well, in terms of accessing to particular services. Like for instance, in the land sector, there are these gatekeepers who are there that before your papers are processed, you have to part away with a particular amount of money. So this one is on the side of the citizen and also on the side of the government, of the duty bearers themselves. So it is on two fronts. Now, there is in Kenya, it looks as if we incentivize corruption. We have institutionalized corruption, but it's an institution that benefits only a particular cabal of people. And we reward corruption. Like for instance, like even if we went to the streets like few months ago, it is good we went to the streets, but we also have to be aware that most of these politicians that we were speaking against, they're a product of what citizens elected. And it's just a reflection, it's a national reflection of what a consolidation of the failures of, or what can we say?
And now we should interrupt, because those people don't even represent us. We elected them to Nambia, we vote no, and they are voting yes, so they don't represent us.
So that's true. That's we can say they don't represent us, but at the same time, for me, what I think is that we incentivize them in a way or the other. We reward them. We reward corrupt practices. Someone can be a minister, and then after being a minister, they can go and steal from this particular ministry, and then use that money and they vie for a governor, and they are elected. Right? Who elects them? They're the citizens. And they say, at least this one steals, and they bring this money to us.
If you want to speak about Finland, land saga,
but you see, but there is a huge demand of corruption. There is a huge demand of corruption. And one way to get it right is that the citizens have to understand that corruption harms you more than it harms the politicians. The politicians are going to build their dynasty. The politicians are going to build their investments. They are at the cost of your healthcare systems, at the cost of education, at the cost of delivering of public services. So we as much as we are looking at the side of government where most of corruption supply is, we also have to look at the side of also citizens where they demand also these particular forms of corruption from in one way or the other. I don't know.
Probably also to add to it, I think there's also another sector where I think that is where the corruption is being manifesting in a good way. The public procurement sector revolves around, I think, every sector. Procurement has become the biggest, or rather the biggest spot where everything is being planned and executed. Even for the biggest scandals, even for the sectors that you've said, public procurement is where everything is happening.
Okay. So Joshua, you mentioned something on budgeted corruption, and that's what actually Gen Zs walikuwa wanasema huko kwa protest. So are there any measures or reforms that you propose on this side, on that like nini of corruption called budgeted corruption? And because it has a lot of impact, especially on employment.
Absolutely. And I think let's just talk a little bit about the budget. Our constitution, the way the framers of the constitution put it, is that it is a road. Budget was anchored under chapter 12 of the constitution. All right. Now, before you get to chapter 12 of constitution, we begin with article 1 that speaks to the sovereignty of the people. You come to chapter 6, which speaks about the leadership and integrity. And you see, it is so unfortunate that in Kenya we do not understand the linkage between leadership and integrity and chapter 12 of the constitution. That if you elect someone who has compromised integrity and ethics, all right, there is no way that this person is going to deliberately put the needs of the citizens under the chapter 12 forward. They're going to be selfish, they're going to be embezzling from public funds. Now, before that, again, there is article 43 of the constitution that speaks about the human rights. And this particular, I think, our constitution anchors the human rights. And at the same time, chapter 12 of the constitution is supposed to protect these particular rights. Now, these particular rights that we're talking about is education, healthcare, water and sanitation, the basic ones, all right, and even the housing. Now, the road towards achieving these particular human rights as provided for under the article 43 is the chapter 12 of the constitution. But now we are having a government whose budget priority, all right, is majorly not to provide for the basic service delivery. Look at our healthcare, majorly funded by the donors, all right? But then, again, at the same time, we say this is a basic human right. Look at the healthcare funding, not healthcare funding, but the education funding, all right? Water and sanitation and all that. In essence, we are having a budget that is clearly, or that is delinked from the provisions of Article 43 of the Constitution. All right? When we are scrutinizing our budget, analyzing our budget, we should be looking how much are we investing towards protection of the basic human rights. Now, the current budget cycle that we have a budget, we have a government that thinks enlarging the budget means that our economy is growing. It means that more investment is coming. That's a fallacy. That's a lie. Big budgets, most of the time, it is when you hear government mentions a big budget, most of the time they come with a rider that says we have a deficit of about $500 billion. This year we have about 600 something. Yeah, slightly over a little bit, $500 billion, all right? Now that is really, really terrible for us.
Within our means.
And at the same time, we have a fellow that says we are supposed to be working within our means, all right? Now, when we enter into a deficit, that means that we are not able to facilitate this particular budget. Look at the priorities that have been set in this particular budget. Project here, project there, project there. None of these projects are anchored toward provision of the basic human rights. These projects are carefully mapped out so that a politician can go out and get a debt, all right, and get a kickback from that debt, and so that they can come and say that, you see, we brought a particular project.
China.
But look at how this particular debt is procured. All right, look at how these particular projects are conceived. Nothing at all with the direct linkage towards the provision of healthcare or of service delivery. Now, when you look at how much at how government at least they conceive their budget and all that, most of our budget expenditure goes towards recurrent expenditure, and this speaks towards the big volume of government officers that we have. That we're having an economy that majorly funds that everybody wants to be a government employee. All right, everyone wants to be a government employee here, and we are continuing to build a fallacy that a bigger government means a more empowered citizens, means a bigger economy. On the other side, forgetting that a bigger government reduces the resources that is required to procure more healthcare facilities. It reduces the budget that needs to be allocated towards hiring more teachers. Because we've been used to speaking about bigger government, most of the time it is not about hiring of teachers. Most of the time it's about hiring the big time employees of government, including the CAS that you're looking at. All right, and that one has continuously led us into borrowings that are not anchored on human rights. Borrowings in Kenya or in any other jurisdiction are on business terms, and that's why our government goes to the market on commercial terms, whereby they borrow they go to a free market. They don't, most of the time they go to an open market like the Eurobond. They get a debt at 18%, and that particular 18%, if you don't pay or if you default, you're going to be removed you're going to be credit rating that ilikuja juzi kwenye inaitwaje?
Listing.
Not grey listing. There is this credit rating that we are not worthy of the credit of the credit market. All right, because the creditors are saying we are not paying our debts as it's supposed to be. We are not raising enough revenue, so we
just
are not
like
qualified.
CRB.
Yeah, it's like CRB for the government. So the thing is that debts are not anchored at all on human rights. Debts are anchored on business terms. And that's why the president would forego paying doctors, paying teachers, paying service delivery, paying the police officers, so that he can pay the debt. Remember him saying, president saying that we are not going to pay salaries so that at least we may not default on loans. Why? Because debts are anchored on business terms. They're not anchored on human rights. All right? And that is the major gap that we are having. That's basically the cycle that we are in. We're in a cycle of conceptualizing of new projects that are not service delivery oriented, which are basically schemes for money, for corruption and all that.
Probably to add to it.
So now what do you do? Like,
in terms of what you do,
I can come in there. I think one of the things, the biggest tool and the strongest tool for all of us, we have seen is information. So we need to get people to participate. One is public participation. One in this budget cycle. I think our strongest tool would be get involved right from the conceptualization of the budget. It's a cycle. Unless you're involved all through, unless you know, and it should start from what has been ailing us and the pain that we are feeling in terms of the taxes that are being taxed. You feel the pain. Yes, so everyone is feeling the pain. Now that you're feeling the pain, go to the next step, take the next step and push to know or get involved to know how your taxes are being used, and simply get involved in the budget making process. Right from the start, how are the projects being, as Joshua said, how are projects being planned? Execution, what resources are going to it? Are they being used prudently? So get that information. People need to go that extra mile and get involved, get information. The other one would be parliamentary oversight. We are not doing well, and I think people have raised concern. They have their ups and downs, but we have seen some leniency as far as parliamentary oversight is concerned, because Parliament is not doing its work. We are getting governors summoned, yes, but so what after that? We are seeing institutions that are mandated to do the oversight, that are mandated to do their work, from EECC, from this Office of Director of Public Prosecution. We have government, we have governors, we have public servants who have issues, who have integrity issues, who have cases in courts revolving around millions of money. Recently we had one of the former governors who is now a CS. He had an issue in court. And funny enough, we have one of the institutions that decided to negotiate a case of around 1.something billion. They agreed to negotiate, and the governor is to pay 250 million or thereabout. 1 billion against 250. It doesn't make up. We have the Office of Director of Public Prosecution dropping cases without any tangible or enough evidence around those cases. We need to see action. The other issue would be public checking on public spending. And I think for me, a very simple concept would be we need to maybe, as citizens or even government, let the government have a kind of price control. I've spoken about public procurement. It's one of the sectors that we are seeing a lot of resources, public resources being lost. And I would assume, let's assume we have a price control kind of approach to it, because you go to give a county government services, whatever it is. If you are building a road, you are a contractor. If you are bidding for that tender, it should be out there that we do not need to see a budget that is beyond what is provided for. Simply put, if I'm buying a phone, let it be on public domain that that phone is only allowed to, the only cost is around 20 to 100,000. If it goes beyond that, then it shouldn't be approved. And if it goes beyond that, then pay up with your own money, not public resources. What that means is, if Joshua here is offering legal services, if he feels his services are not within that price range, then let those who feel that is within their price range offer, whether county, national government, whatever services it is that it needs. Simply, that means we'll be able to manage the budgets within the different entities, government entities, and it will be clear out there even when the Auditor General is doing the auditing and the controller of budget is doing their role. It will be very easy to ensure we don't have cases like the ones we are seeing of county governments paying billions for pending bills that are not budgeted for. Pending bills, whether it's legal services or whatever kind of pending bills that are exaggerated. You end up paying for legal services 1.something billion. We have law firms receiving billions of money for legal services. Yet we can cap that to a range. If you want to offer services to a county government or any entity, you want to represent it, the capping is at this amount. If you feel your law firm is beyond that, then don't take it up. There are more Kenyans who want that, who will offer those services at that price range, and we have managed our budget to a certain extent. Another one, we need to continue doing independent audits to our budgets. And basically is what GNZ were doing. We have seen a lot of online conversations, people coming out. We have seen the Moraras doing monitoring of projects. We need to see citizens go out there and think about basic things. Tell us 1 billion. You automatically, most of us have not interacted with 1 billion. But you know at least what are one, probably 100,000 or 50,000 can do. So if I come here for sure and I see a road that I'm being told from here up to that point is 1 billion, automatically there is a challenge, and we need to come out and speak about these things.
Can I add a little bit? We need to, you see sometimes as civil society, we most of the time we want to come out and call out government for failing, and this is the reason why we do that, because government as a well-facilitated oversight institution. The parliament, as he's spoken about, there is two other important offices that complement that particular office or that particular institution, which is the Office of the Control of Budget and the Office of the Auditor General. Now, these two oversight institutions, the Control of Budget and the Auditor General, they are officers of the Parliament, not the officers of the President. But in essence, we always want to make them look as if they are officers of the President, which it's not supposed to be. They are officers of the Parliament because when they produce their report, they table it to Parliament with a copy to the President. The first reporting entity is to the Parliament. All right, and the Parliament is supposed to use the Control of Budget reports to appraise what the Treasury is bringing in form of budget proposal. What, the key performance indicators. All right, how did this particular data that we procure to facilitate this particular project, how did it go? How much did we spend? How much more do we need? All right, we never do that. We never do appraising on the debt facilitated projects. But at the same time, we forget that this particular burden is going to be transferred directly to the citizens. No apologies on it, because it was borrowed on the grounds, whether they went to the market, whether they borrowed somewhere, an individual in US, an individual in China. That money that agreement was entered to in the name of the sovereign. So it is the sovereign, whether us or another generation to come, if that money is not used properly. If you borrow money and to buy a phone and you go and squander that money, you don't use it to buy a phone. When the debtor comes, or when the creditor comes, hata kuuliza kama hiyo pesa ulitumia vizuri. Misusing your money is not a qualification or is not a justification for failure to pay that particular debt. That debt is due whether you've used it properly or accurately or not. And the Parliament has failed. Every time the President asks for an increase in the debt limit, the Parliament has always given the increase. And then the other day, we saw the President, Achanasema, let us appoint a committee to do a forensic audit of the debt after the Gen Zs were under pressure. Now that is a very, very bad.
How do I laugh in that pleases the Lord?
You see, that is a clear disregard of the constitutionally provided office that is supposed to constantly appraise government spendings, constantly provide audits of what government is doing with citizens' money. President has constantly ignored their reports, and then at the same time anataka kutufunga macho kwa appoint a particular committee na alieka hapo LSK Faith Odhiambo ndo mfunge macho waache kufanya kazi, akika watu wa civil society, akika watu wa ISPA. You see, it is really we are in a really terrible place. And until we reinstate the importance of this particular oversight institution and the President recognizing that we are not a parliamentary system. All right, because it thinks you're a parliamentary system. That's why for everything.
It's parliament. And actually, to add to that conversation around parliament and also that oversight institution, I think we end up duplicating so many roles and functions. I think we need to stick. Simply put, for such a task, if it was about auditing our public debt, let the government empower the Auditor General's office on the misses that he feels are there as far as auditing is concerned. Give them the power, review the registrations, and we are good to go instead of duplicating roles and coming up with another entity.
Maybe anataka ndo tusipoint fingers. When you want to point fingers, no, it's this committee, now you go to
exactly. Amezoea a committee there kutufunga macho. Anyway, we have.
So now let's get back to your organization. TI Kenya has so many initiatives, and there are walkathons, right?
Yes.
So how many have you done so far?
This should be our fourth. The one that we are planning now. We have had 3. We were ideally, and our idea was to have this annually. We did 2 before COVID came and disrupted our normal operations everywhere. So we were a bit laid back on that. So we are picking up from where we left before COVID and taking it back to our annual kind of approach, because it's part of what we plan for.
Oh, me
Yeah.
actually thought you were celebrating something, maybe.
Also, yeah, it's also part of, we have done it, we are doing it to coincide with our celebration of our 25 years of operation. So it's only that we are combining, but we usually do it yearly. Annually.
Oh.
Yeah, but we haven't done it since COVID, I think, since COVID, but it does coincide with our 25th anniversary. Yeah.
And for the Nini that you've done, the walkathons you've done, are there any impacts that maybe you can highlight?
Yes, one I think revolves around awareness. We have seen a lot of people join us, come up to collaborate with us from different sector, private sector, public sector. We have had entities, public entities coming in to join us. And for us, I think our biggest, some of the biggest achievement would point out revolves around having more and more people come out. And not just to join us for the walkathons, but to join us to coding into action, the different entities that are having some misses as far as good governance is concerned. We have seen people, we have seen institutions come out and speak about things that are happening and call to action even the government. We have seen more awareness, we have raised more awareness to citizens. And funny enough, when we are doing these walkathons and we are walking in town and you get to interact with people, probably they were not aware about the walkathon. Your interaction with these citizens sometimes will shock you because access to information is such a big challenge. People don't even know where they can access basic of things, basic of information, basic of services. So for us, it's always good to see them to create this awareness and see more and more people being aware that you can report corruption, you can have institutions held into account, you can have you can get services without even bribing, and you can get your cases reported and dealt with by the different entities that have this mandate. The other one would be around media coverage. I think over time we have seen quite good reception as far as media coverage is concerned. We've seen more and more media houses, more and more spaces created to speak about the walkathons, the work around promoting good governance. So those are some of the successes, and also continued sponsorship just around the work we do. We see more and more people coming to endorse what we do. Might not necessarily being in terms of resources, but even providing platforms, providing opportunities for people to speak up and act. Those are some of the successes we can say we've been able to get from the different walkathons that we have done so far. And we are gaining more and more traction as time goes by.
I think the first time I participated in the walkathon was in 2019, before we went 2020, before 2020 hit us with COVID. And that was when I was getting into the civil society space. And what this did to me was just igniting that advocate spirit, you know, just participating and see people passionate speaking against corruption. They let you know what really matters. I think that goes a long ways. And I would really want more citizens, more youth to register and take up their slots and come and march with us on that particular date of the 28th of this month, and at least stand up against corruption, because I think if we don't, then our children are going to pay for it. Myself, I want to be a family man, but I want my children to grow up in an economy or in a system of governance that has equal opportunity to all, that a citizen that does not a system that does not reward the corrupt, a citizen that does not that does not favor the who and the whos, but a system that is equal for all and that provides equal opportunities for all. All right, so that is what I'm looking at, and at least I think this is a platform for the youth to come and just be heard. They can speak up their mind. This is a platform for the youth to come
admit their fellow advocates, the millennials and the X's. I think we're going to have the Gen X as well, and even the boomers. The boomers are going to be there. So it is good.
It's very important. I think it's a collective responsibility, and our main objective for this is one, to mobilize people to come out and get interested in this conversation, get empowered, get the information, know where and how you can do it, and push for accountability. I think the other one is to create awareness around what is happening, because me and you probably have an understanding of what it means when you're talking about a billion, but the trickle down of to it, or the trickle down effect of having a billion of your tax money being lost, and what it means in your day-to-day normal life is not something citizens, especially us common citizens, understand. We do not have that good understanding to know that you going to the hospital and missing out on that medicine, or being sent to buy that medicine out there, yet it's supposed to be available, is a result of, one, this corruption that we are seeing. So the conversation is around, what can this 1 billion do? Assume it's taken to the education sector. It will enable you, the resources a parent is paying as school fees, as money to buy probably other utilities within the education sector, you will be able to save that and use it to do something else for yourself. The same thing with the healthcare. You end up paying so much for healthcare, yet we are being taxed. Those resources should go into improving our different service delivery sector everywhere actually, but you go to the hospital, you are not able to get those services. So we need to see people, everyone across, young, old, being able to connect that when you hear someone is being accused or has stolen 1 billion, you need to understand what effect it has on your life. That means you become a slave to this kind of life, yet if those resources had been used prudently to improve these two sectors, whatever you are making in a day wouldn't be taken to the healthcare in totality, because you've been taxed to improve services you are not getting. You end up being taxed and paying more in this health facility and school, yet you could be saving that money and improving your life. And that is the conversation we are saying. We need people to understand that, and we also need to give people platforms to engage, collaborate, and come together. We can only do it when we come together. And that is the objective of the walkathon that we'll be holding on 28th of this September.
Did you know that 1 billion Kenya shillings, if you have that money now, you'll never be poor until you die. You see, just 1 billion like this. And you know, 1 billion, if you spend on a daily basis about 90,000, yani unatumia tu 90k, una spoil tu watu kuspoil yenye nabaki tupa. For the next 30 years, man, you spend that money and utamaliza. That's the money. 1 billion unaweza kuistack kwa hii room. Hata hii room I think inaweza kuwa kadogo. That's how much money people are stealing. And here's someone that is ameenda na 2 billion, 27 billion Arol Kimorer. And we never see that money. So bala anyway.
Okay, so for people who are hearing about the walkathon today for the first time, so where do they register?
Okay, maybe I can share from our objective on the walkathon and now to what it entails. We are calling upon people. This is just one of the many initiatives we do. We do a lot of other, as I mentioned earlier, we do a lot of other interventions. We do awareness creation, or rather, we do some public forums, public awareness creation. We do a lot of research, as I mentioned. We do a lot of public legal aid, just to offer people legal aid and advice around corruption cases. And we have our regional offices. We have 4 regional offices as Transparency International Kenya. We have one in Nairobi. We have one in Western, North Rift. Rift. We have one in Mombasa. So people are able to report corruption issues, and we pick these up and follow up with the relevant institutions. But that said, the walkathon, as part of our intervention, we want to call upon people to join us on 28th of this month. And for you to register, you just log into www.integritywalk.tikenya.org. From there, you're able to get all the information that is needed around registration. For adults, we are registering with 2,000. For kids, it's 1,000. And this enables you to get a t-shirt after you register and pay up that registration. It's like I would say is the registration that enables you to get a t-shirt that will be part of the attires we'll be having, will be donning that day for the walk. And we have a number of packages for individuals, for institutions. We've said this is one of the initiatives to also help us mobilize resources for the work that we do. And that is one of the reasons that we have that registration. The normal way we do, we have the walks and the runs being done. We have the standard marathon and all that. So for that, we are adults, it's 1,000, 2,000, sorry, and for the kids, it's 1,000. We have different packages. We are calling upon people who are able or who are in a position to support. You can, we have a package where you can support kids to participate, school kids. We are calling it support a student. And we have a package for that. You can support 5 kids, 2 kids, 3 kids. You can come up as an institution, as an entity, as a private sector player. Pick up a package. We have different packages. You get an opportunity to get your logo and information in our informational materials, branded for the organization, branded, and you also get to have, we'll be having exhibitions at the venue, so you also get to exhibit whatever work you're doing. We are also doing it to also help create brand visibility. You get an opportunity to interact with all the players who will join us. You get to have media exposure. Depending on the package that you have, you get to interact with the media that will be joining us during that day. And we have a lot of other benefits that you stand to gain from the packages. So you can do any amount, but we have a number of packages that you're able to access from that platform where you register. All the information is there. We have brochures, we have information around the categories, the benefit that accrues, the merchandise that you get, and all that. So it's available again on www.tikenya.org. That is it.
Oh, okay. Do you have something to add?
He's done a good job in terms of presenting that. Yeah.
Okay, so on the next question, I'd really ask you to be fearless. Be fearless. So, what challenges have you experienced in this side of Nataka integrity?
One, I think, we have had our fair share of resistance, I think, over time, and it's good. I think it feels more rewarding this year, I would say, if I was to be asked. If the players within the sector were to be asked. It's good to see people joining you into this cause, because the feeling we have, or the feeling that has been there over time in these countries, you talk about corruption, you say you are working towards promoting a corruption-free society, and everyone feels like it's not possible. And for that reason, you get a lot of citizen apathy, where people don't want to get involved.
Yeah.
So it feels good to see people coming out, knowing what it really means, what mess the corruption is doing to this country. The second thing is resistance. I think we have had a lot of resistance across the different divides. I've spoken about citizens, but equally government. You get a lot of resistance from institutions that you're supposed to support. For us, it's like we are supporting them to do their work better. So you approach them with the idea that we see gaps from our research. We would want to engage and see how best to support you to execute your roles. And you get a lot of resistance. The other thing is threats. We have had a lot of threats. Yes. It comes, and also security issues.
Like your honesty.
Yes. We have a lot of threats because it's not easy dealing with this, especially in a country where it's not automatic that there will be respect for rule of law. Then there has been so many threats. So, yeah, I probably might not even go deeper into it, but threats are there.
Hutaki kwenda
Day to day,
Sayuni.
yeah. And then there is bureaucracy, working with government institutions sometimes even delays our timelines and even our intervention because you realize, and this has been our approach, you realize you can't keep doing or keep, yes, we are out there, we highlight the gaps, the misses that are there, but you also need to have a conversation, to sit down with these institutions and have a discussion around how do we go forward, how do we support, what kind of support do you need. And when you approach these offices, there is good reception sometimes, and then after some time that goes away. You are halfway through whatever you're supposed to be doing with the institutions, so it ends up even affecting your work, your timelines. So that is something that has been there.
I think he has quite highlighted what it is that we're facing out here, and it's in this space of governance we work with a lot of stakeholders, but also at the same time the other oversight institutions that we work with and the anti-corruption agencies like the EACC. In confidence, they tell us of frustration that they get on the investigations. So you can imagine if a state mandated officer is being frustrated to a point where they do a successful investigation, but they told you cannot prosecute this particular case. And if they do, they are shipped to a place in Kanyamkago, somewhere there. Okay, in a place somewhere. Somewhere there, you're very far away from Nairobi.
It happens.
Or you hear someone is dead somewhere. Rivayala, you remember the Rivayala thing? Or you hear someone has been maimed somewhere and they have been left in a forest to die. So these are some of the challenges that are there. And it is the frustration that come with doing the right thing. And man, it's the cost we pay. It's the cost that you have to pay so that you can at least have. We don't have to pay these costs, but you are in the line. When you put yourself out there for integrity, when you put yourself out there for accountability, you're standing in that line, man, and it has to come, at one point or the other. So you ask your question: from what point of view am I doing this? Am I doing this for salary, or am I doing this for passion?
Thank you.
Am I doing this for all these? Okay. You see, so if you're doing it for other reasons other than the zeal to see accountability and ethical leadership in Kenya that can benefit the generations to come, then you're in it for the wrong reasons. You cannot even say you're doing it for passion, because man, this cannot be passion, man. You're putting your life at risk, but you're just doing it. All right. So it is, it is just that zeal to want to see a system that is a corruption-free society. That is why we put ourselves out there. And the other major challenge, man, is that we are majorly in terms of sustainability. We were, as the way he was talking, he was saying that especially finance bill. Man, I was working in PFM sector even before I joined TI. And this finance bill thing, we've been talking about it. Year in, year out. Nobody was paying attention to it. Nobody bothered about it. Until last year, 2023, when the housing thing came and everybody was talking about finance bill. At least we are now seeing the sustainability aspect of it, whereby we bring evidence to the citizens and now the citizens are able to act on that particular evidence. We do not purport that we speak for the citizens. We speak with the citizens. We enable the citizens to speak. We cannot say that we are speaking. We don't have the mandate as a civil society to speak for the citizens. The parliamentarians have the mandate by the vote to speak for the citizens, but unfortunately they don't represent the voices of the citizens. So for us, what we do is that we complement the voices of the citizens by giving them evidence, by organizing their voices in form of evidence and speaking to government. At least right now we can see some positive towards that, but at least the Gen Zs and the citizens need to know that they are in for a long haul. Budget system, make wish 2024 finance bill. We have another one that is already cooking already. And just to speak on the finance bill, by the way, we don't need finance bill every year, by the way. We don't need it, by the way. In fact, you see what a finance bill does? Finance bill distorts the market, all right? Because the private sector looks at a more stable regime in terms of taxes. The private sector, they are in for, they want to plan their tax obligation for the next at least 5 years. All right? The citizens, they don't want to be living in a place where next year a tax has been increased, next year a tax has been reduced. All right? There is a lot of instability and unpredictability within our market, and that is doing a lot of damage. Can we have a strategy policy? All right, something that is speaking towards sustainability, whereby we say that in the next 5 years we're going to maximize on digital revenue tax, and we're going to expand the bracket, all right, to these particular sectors for this in the DST for this particular amount of years, all right. Can we speak towards a more deliberate tax planning that can help the economy to be a little bit broader, or to be a little bit predictable and organized. At the moment, the finance bill, we are following the US system, and the US system is a country that has been there for over 400 years of democracy. For us, we are struggling at 60 years, and we want to copy and paste. We don't need the finance bill every year. We need a proper tax planning by the government, so that they can help the citizen to at least think through. It is not an every year fix. I fix it. Sort of an economy. It is something that we need a proper, deliberate planning. Because even right now we are saying that we must increase taxes so that you can pay debt. Debt that ilikuja kujenga reli ya China. That by the way, we can do a social economic analysis of the SGR, even if it is helping us kwenda Mombasa na kutoka. The person that is helping with the Chinese, when their goods hit and their goods hits Mombasa port, zitafikaje all of East Africa within a day. That's what we are looking at. We are not looking at how much are we exporting through the SGR. We are looking at how much are we importing through the SGR. All right. So who is it benefiting? The qui bono question there. Who is it benefiting?
What's the bigger picture?
What's the bigger picture? The roads that we build by these particular loans that we borrow, all right? Ni the roads that zinatupeleka kwa majani chai. Who owns these farms za majani?
All right. Actually, then to speak to that, you think about some of the projects that are being undertaken. They are good. We do appreciate, but looking at the value preposition to it. And actually, we're going back to that conversation where we need people to be woke, to get information, to come out and ask questions, and we need to get answers. Because I'll give you a good example, and I hope the Thika Road Nyeri people won't be on my neck. My simple thinking, it's good. They need it. They are citizens of this country. They deserve better infrastructure. But I think as a country, we have our priorities. We don't have our priorities right. And that is one of the things that is giving us a lot of challenge, leading to even these deaths, unwarranted deaths, because there's a road recently done, I think from way up Keno. It's good. But if you look at it in this country, I would compare two roads. We have Naivasha, Mahiu, Naivasha, or the Eldoret, all that way.
Or the Mombasa
Where do we
roads.
need where do we need which would be a priority? My question would be, which one would be a priority and where are we having more challenges? We have people spending nights in that road.
My Matthew. I spent 12 hours, man.
You see? But this, yes, it has had traffic once in a while. But honestly, I feel like that road needed to be a priority. As much as I know it's a conversation around, it's a part of government around an upset and all that. But looking at it in a way, and that is just a simple one. We have so many other things that are not a priority. But lastly, I think another challenge that we see, and I think has also been a challenge to everyone, not just us working within this sector, even the citizen, is inadequate information or access to information. A more empowered citizenry is in a better place to ask questions, but we do not have that information. For us as Transparency International, we are an institution probably might be able to knock into some of these offices and ask for this information. But imagine someone in the village has no idea about the budgets, has no idea about anything. So that is one of the biggest challenge we encounter when we are doing this work, because you also are not able to be in a good position to ask questions if you do not get access to the budgets, to the expenditure, to basic information that needs to be out there in public domain.
Okay. So as you wind up, what advice would you give to young people who want to engage in anti-corruption efforts?
One, for me, I think would be stay informed. I'll pick it from where I've spoken about information. I think
information is power.
Information is power. So stay involved. Stay informed. Do the best that you can to get information. Get the interest, because you stand. I would put it as a young person compared to our folks and people who are in their 50, 60. I would put it in a plain way. You have more time to get stressed by what is happening in this country than your parents have. Then that is a good enough reason for you to start getting involved. Stay informed first, get involved. Persistence. I think, as I've said, this is not, we do not expect results in one night. So you need to have that consistency and also persistence in trying to make things work and pushing for things to work. And I think the other thing I would advise is us leveraging on technology. I think that is the biggest game changer. We have seen people sharing information out there. We have seen the power of Twitter to mobilize people to come out, to raise issues and call government into action. We need to leverage and try to make better use of technology. And lastly is, I think each day we need to call ourselves into a meeting. It starts from our ethics. It starts from you, by saying no to corruption, by doing the right thing, by having it trickle down to your generations. Let it be your initiative from deep within you, and that will help us change our parents. It might not change for our parents, but it will change for us.
I think I'll just emphasize on the value system. We have a generation that needs to be stronger in terms of values. What do we value? Do you value short-term gains over long-term, more sustainable gains? Are you the person that will go out there and be bought by a politician? Are you a person that will sacrifice your values for the sake of bread? All right, and that is what we have faced with our politicians. Most politicians are in power because of being sycophants to the big-time politicians, and the one way that we can do away with this generation that is full of sycophancy that has no focus on any value system or anything, is by us starting and rejecting the status quo and standing up for what is right, and understanding that we are doing this not for the sake of your own gains, but you're doing it for the sake of the gain of your generations to come. And it has much, even if you don't get recognized, even if nobody spotlights you as the way some of the few people that have been spotlighted. The other thing is that they should not go in it for the show. You see, and man, they should be slow. When they go to this, they should be slow with the media coverage, man. Okay, the media coverage, like you see Morara when they're doing media coverage, when he's doing the appraising and all that is good. But this other media coverage on now starting to do cloud chasing, man, run away from that. It's gonna backfire. Fame is double-edged, man. Fame is double-edged. Yeah. It can go either way. And you're opening up, like you see other people that maybe they have been, I don't want to mention names, but people that have been there, the people who got, no, I don't want to mention them because I know this podcast will be listened to by other people. Now, the thing is, what I'm saying is that fame is double-edged. And if you're in this for fame, man, you're going to fail big time. But if you need for values, if you need for what is right, it's going to pay off. You're going to feel more satisfied when you sit back at home and you realize that because of my voice here, whether nobody saw it or anybody saw it somewhere, you were able to achieve something substantive for your people. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Your parting shot now.
Parting shot. I think for me it would be simple. I think I would adopt the hummingbird concept by our good professor Wangari Maathai. Simple things, and simply put, I would say, do the little you can to your best. And if that is not possible, then let everybody sweep at their doorstep and the whole world will be clean. Simple. If you're not able to do it to your best, if you really don't want to collaborate with people, you don't want to join people, at least if you sweep at your doorstep, if everybody gets to sweep at their doorstep, the whole world will be clean and will be good. Thank you.
My parting shots. They have a parting shot. but whoever controls your language of discourse controls your reality. Understand that, yeah? So if you know, keep, so what I mean, is that if you continue feeding yourself with propaganda, if you continue feeding yourself with the rhetoric of politicians, your reality is going to be the reality of politicians. They're going to build you castles in the air. They're going to be believing in these air castles, and you're never going to be standing up for anything. Get informed, as the way he has said. Get informed. Whoever controls your language of discourse, all right, get informed. Get into the spaces where people are speaking of integrity, where people are speaking of accountability. That's how you get to now start informing your new reality. Is it possible to have a corrupt-free Kenya? Is it possible to have a public service system that recruits people, not because of, I know your name is a Kipngetich, or your name is a Muteti, or your name is or your name is Kamau, or your name is Odhiambo. That doesn't matter. Or you come from which part of this country. Let us continue engaging in discourses that continue to challenge the status quo. Let us continue to engage in discourses that challenge what has been normalized, things that are abnormal. It is not normal to treat people based on their color, not based on where they come from, based on which community they come from. That is not normal. It is right that you give people who are qualified particular jobs, people you give everyone equal opportunity so that they can all benefit from the gains of the Constitution. Thank you so much.
Wow.
Sovereign power
belongs to the people.
Yeah.
I thank you so much for heeding to our call and giving your very, very powerful insights. Yeah, Rome wasn't built in a day, and we will just take it a step at a time. And for 28th, be rest assured, tunakuja.
Asante sana.
Yes, tunaanguka nayo.
We're hoping to see you, all of you. I think I've interacted with a number of your colleagues.
Yeah.
We're in a meeting the day before yesterday.
Oh.
Yeah, around political parties at with the office of Registrar of Political Parties, and they promised to show up.
Yeah, we will, without
Awesome.
fail.
Feel free to reach out, feel free to spread the gospel. Please feel free to share it out in your social medias. Yes, and we need more and more youths to come up.
Yeah, and to our technical team, thank you so much for coming through. And for our people, thank you for sticking with us to the end. Kindly like, share, subscribe to our channel, and comment down below on the topics you want us to discuss and the people you'd like us to bring on board. Until the next one, bye.
Bye bye.